Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Club Systems webinar. My name's Ashley. You've probably seen me on a few tutorial videos over the past few months on our YouTube channel. I hope everyone's keeping well, and we're looking forward to a return to golf, especially in Wales this weekend, which was announced today, and then England obviously towards the back end of this month. So hope everyone's ready. Everyone's got their Club V1 in shape, ready for a return to golf. Today's webinar is based around some tee sheet settings, setting up a competition, some communication details, and just some bits and bobs that we feel that will help you moving into the season really. So I'm just going to introduce the relationship manager for Club Systems, Darren. So he's my line manager. He's just going to come on, introduce himself, and towards the end of the webinar we're going to go through a few questions that we've had from you guys that have been submitted on registration, and do our best to answer all of those post-webinar via email. So I'll just bring Darren in.
Fantastic, thank you, Ashley. I think just looking at some of the names on the attendance list now, we're up to 141 and it's still ticking along quite nicely. So quite a popular webinar for us today. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the relationship manager for Club Systems. I usually host the road shows towards the autumn time, so some of you may recognise me from the guy at the front of the room shouting every 10 minutes to get you to move on to the next product. But this is primarily just going to be delivered by Ashley today, who is the account manager for the Midlands, parts of the south of England and South Wales. So great news that Wales is able to return to golf tomorrow. Hopefully everybody's doesn't sound like a lot of time to get ready, if I'm honest, a day to open a golf course, but hopefully members are patient and eager to get back, and hopefully our Irish friends are not too far away from a return to golf as well. So hopefully by Easter everybody's back on the golf course enjoying what they do the most, enjoy doing the most. So Ashley's going to go through some things today, and then as he said, I'm going to go over some of the frequently asked questions that have been submitted with the registration process for the webinar. We can't go through every question. As I say, we're now up to 150 people in the webinar, of which most people have asked a question. I've taken out the most common ones. We're going to go through those at the end. But all the questions that have been submitted, including anything that gets asked today live, I'll do my best to answer some of them as we're going along, but I am going to answer them all retrospectively on a Q&A sheet, and you'll all get a copy of that at some point next week, along with a handout for the webinar. So hope you enjoy it, hope you find it useful. As always, if you've got anything that you'd like to see from us, drop us an email, customerservice@clubsystems.com, and we'll try and get things sorted for you. So I'll pass you back to Ashley, who'll go through the presentation. I'll disappear off the screen now, but I'll be in the background doing my best to answer some of your questions.
Thanks, Darren. So yeah, we've got a presentation that we put together on PowerPoint. This will be sent out to all clubs following the webinar. So if you do need to refer back to anything at a later time, you can do. I'm going to bring that up now and use this as a sort of point by point, and I will show you this live in Club V1. Okay, so preparing for a return to golf. The webinar storyboard will cover enabling sign-in and score entry. So this can be done via back office, PSI and MSI, which is mobile score input. We'll then go through setting up a competition, so just ensuring that you have everything set for the season, all of the key features that some you may not be aware of. We're just going to talk through every section within the process of setting that up. We're going to go through a few key tee sheet settings, so making the most of key booking features, and then finally looking at the communication section of Club V1 via the mailing wizard, newsletter HTML, and app notifications. So this is just touching on a few features that are available in Club V1 that we feel are key for a return to golf. So I hope you enjoy. So number one would be sign in and score entry. So how this is enabled really for PSI and mobile score input moving into the golf season. So if we just flip back to Club V1. So I'm logged into my demo system here, which isn't actually connected to the WHS servers. So there's points today where I'll talk you through it, but obviously I won't be able to do certain things within Club V1 that you would do on your own Club V1. So to enable sign-in and score entry, you would go into the settings area. On the left-hand side, if you scroll down, we've got an option called PSI units. And in this section, it will display all of the units that you have on site. So at my club, I've got one in the clubhouse. If you had one in the lounge, one in the pro shop, every unit would be displayed on this page. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got an edit button. Okay, so if we bring this up, and you can see I've already got casual round sign-in available ticked and score entry. So the first thing you would need to do is obviously come into this section and ensure these are both ticked, and you can then save. As you can see below, we've got a few more options that you can make tailor to each PSI unit on site, but we're obviously just covering the sign-in and score entry today. So once you've saved that, if we scroll down on the left-hand side, we've then got PSI settings. Within this section, you can see there is an option here called Allow PSI Casual Rounds, and you would need to change that to Yes. Again, this would allow then casual rounds to be entered at the PSI. So once you've changed that to Yes, you can scroll down to the bottom and simply click Save. So PSI now is ready to go on the day of a competition. Members can go in, they can sign in via the PSI and then enter their score afterwards. To enable this for mobile score input, which is available on the How Did I Do app, if you scroll down the left-hand side, you can see we've got How Did I Do settings. Within this area, you've then got a similar option called Enable Casual Round Sign-In and Score Entry on How Did I Do. So if we change this to Yes and save settings, that will then appear on the mobile app and How Did I Do for members to then go in and sign in remotely. Okay, so if we just bring back up the presentation. So again, you can see there is a storyboard of each section for that you can look back on. Okay, so section 2, we're going to look at setting up a competition. So if we just flick back to Club V1. So from your home screen on the dashboard, you will go to the top section called Golf. And within this section, you've got a quick link on the left called Add Comp. And before we do this, I'm just going to touch on one point on the left-hand side called Clone Comp. So if you've got fixtures, say, for next year and you wanted to replicate them from this year, that is fine. It will bring across all of the details to save you inputting them twice, and you can just change the competition name. You can then go into edit this if you wanted to change certain details, but please note that if you are cloning a comp from last year before WHS, obviously that was created in Kongu, so that won't work moving forwards. So if you are cloning comps, that's fine, but just make sure it is post the 2nd of November. Okay, so add comp, and the first section is the format. So we've pretty much got all the formats that are available. So I'm just going to use the single men's medal, which is the first one on page. And as you can see here, we've got competition name. So for today, we're just going to call this test competition. And then it's asking for the competition date. So we're going to leave that as today. Scoring type. So although we've selected medal, you can change that to Stableford or par bogey in this section. We've then got open competition, allow visitors. So if you change that to yes, this will make this an open competition, and visitors then can go onto your website through How Did I Do and enter that competition. The next two sections, we've got auto publish to How Did I Do when the competition is closed, and auto publish to the members hub when the competition is closed. So as soon as you close that comp, the results, would be uploaded straight away to the members apps for members to go in and see. They'll also get an email to let them know that this is available. You have got the option to delay publish to the members hub. So if you wanted to keep this a specific time every Saturday and Sunday, you could set that to 7:30 p.m. and that would then automatically update at that time. Publish results is net or gross to How Did I Do. So most clubs would set this to net, but in certain instances, if you've got a club championship or a scratch competition, you may want to change that to gross. Number of rounds. So obviously, if you've got a competition that is over 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 rounds, you can select that in this section. and then pull those together at a later stage. So once happy, we'll then click continue. Okay, so section 2. So this is the handicaps. So as I mentioned earlier, my demo system isn't connected to the WH servers. So if you were to select this as a handicap qualifier, the handicap allowance percentage would be automatically set to 95%. That would be grayed out, so you couldn't change that. If you were to change this to handicap qualifier to no, that will allow you to set whatever handicap allowance percentage that you wanted for that particular competition. You've also got the option to set handicap limit type now by playing handicap or handicap index, which you can then input in the box below. And you can also stop entries over that handicap limit if you wanted to. So once happy with the handicaps, I'm going to leave this as a handicap qualifier to no, as I mentioned earlier, just so I can select the course on the further page. So the next section is divisions. So within divisions, you can set as many divisions up as you want. So most clubs would have 2 or 3. And as you can see, it's already created one here for me. So plus 10 to, let's say, 16, we could then create 17 to 28. So again, you've got as many divisions as you want to create. Results and leaderboards. So when it publishes the results, how do you want the divisions broken down? Is it going to be by playing handicap, handicap index, or course handicap? So again, that is up to the club how you would like to decide that, but you've got the option of all 3. So I'm going to leave this one on playing handicap and continue. Okay, so the next section is the course cards. So in this section, you do need to make sure that all of your course cards for qualifying competitions are linked to the WHS servers. So you need to go into the platform and make sure you've created your courses in the WHS end to then link your course cards via Club V1. So you would then have all the drop downs of each course that are linked for you to choose from. So we're going to select my demo course. And again, if you wanted to add optional course cards, you can do there. Okay, so we now come on to access restrictions. So this section now will allow you to stop certain people from entering the competition. So for example, if I've got a men's trophy competition and I didn't want juniors to enter, I could create a drop-down filter called juniors, which would include all of the junior members. And then I'd drop the access type down to disallow, and that would stop any junior golfers entering that particular competition. If you wanted to create a filter, there is a YouTube tutorial video on how to create a filter. So if you check that one out, and then this will appear in the drop down here. Okay, so the next section, allow players to choose playing partners when booking on the PSI. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Individual events, can you put in another player basically and choose your playing partner? And this is the same when booking on how did I do, so you can set that to yes or no. Okay, so the next section is forward booking. So if you wanted to enable a start sheet, you've got the little tick box here, and you've got start sheet type. So you can either do a shotgun start at a particular time, or you can create tee times. So on this section, you've got first tee time hour. So let's say it's going to be 8 o'clock, and you've got the last tee time hour. So for this comp, it's going to be 12. Players per tee time. So you've got between 1 and 4, and then you've got the intervals for that competition. Now, if you've got your tee sheet set at 10-minute intervals and you wanted the competition to be 8, this will override it in this section for that particular comp between 8 and 12. As you can see, we've got 93 players available slots within those tee times. So if I change this to 1 o'clock, you can see I've now got 114 slots available. And below you've got comments which can be printed on reports or published results. So it's up to you if you want to add any comments in there. That will be added to the results. Okay, so once happy, we can then move through to the next page, which is booking options. So enabling a reserve list for this competition. So if it gets full, all the slots between 8 and 12 or 8 and 1 are full. I can go into the competition and set myself as the next reserve if this is enabled. So say I go into booking, it's full at the moment. I put myself on the reserve list. It will ask what time I want to play between. So say I put between 9 and 10. If the first person then drops out between 9 and 10, it will put me in that slot if it's between those times automatically, and it will send me a notification and via email that I've been put into that slot. That's pretty useful. So the next one down, we've got email notifications of tee times made via How Did I Do. So we'd set these to yes, and the same for when making bookings via PSI. We can set the email notifications to let people know their tee time. Forward booking on PSI. So if we enable this, you can see from the 26th, because I've got it open for a larger window, members can go to the PSI and actually book themselves into the comp between a certain time frame. And again, they can do that via the How Did I Do app within that competition. So if we enable both of these, members can go in themselves and book in rather than calling up the club. So I'm going to leave those enabled and continue. Okay, so zone draws. If we want to enable start sheet zone draws for this competition, we can. So for example, if we wanted to mix people up in a trophy competition, we can create different zones where people can go in, put themselves down between sort of 8 and 9, 9 and 10, and so on, and then randomly draw that at a later date. So basically, I need to play in the morning because I've got commitments in the afternoon. I can only play really between 8 and 9, so I put myself in, and then I'm drawn with random players, but within that time slot. So it is useful for certain competitions if you're looking to split people up, but keep them at a sort of preferred time slot if you like. Okay, so the next section is sign in. Okay, so to enable a sign-in list, this is pretty useful. Obviously, you know who's gone out from a back office perspective. If you're using competition charging, for example, members can sign in on the How Do I Do app or the PSI, and then the money is taken then if you've got it set to sign in. So it's very useful for certain elements of sort of tracking who's doing what, making sure people are paying before they go out. So we've got sign-in options. Okay, so if we enable sign-in for PSI, as I just stated there, I'd go to the PSI, I'd sign in. If you've got labels, label printed to your PSI, it would then spit out a label for that competition. It would take off the £3 entry fee. So having that ticked, if you're doing competition charging, is vital. And again, the same for mobile score input on How Did I Do. So you've got it enabled to and from, and that's entirely up to you. If you want to display a sign-in message as well that pops up for that particular competition, you can pop it in there. So the next section is charging. So we've got enable competition charging, yes or no. So if we tick that, you will need to have a merchant account set up with one of the providers that we integrate with. A list of those, again, can be found on our online payments tutorial on YouTube. OB Payments being our preferred supplier at the moment. The integration with those is constantly growing, and features available to those using that platform is much more enhanced. So we've got enable competition charging. You can set one mandatory charge item. So if I tick that, so if we change that to entry fee, and we're going to say it's going to be £3 to enter. And again, you can drop this down. When is that money taken? Is it from sign-in or when they actually book into the competition? If this was an open competition, you'd have a visitor fee there as well. So it may be £15 for a member, £20 for a visitor for an open. So we're going to change that to sign-in. Okay, so the next step, we've got optional charges. So for example, if we wanted to set up a 2 sweep for £1, we can do. And you can create another message there to say, do you want to enter the 2 sweep for X amount, and add. So this will give the player the option when they sign in. It will take the £3 and then give them the option to then enter the 2 sweep. At the bottom, we've got refund mandatory charge on withdrawal. So let's say, for example, you can set, if I withdraw within, I don't know, 24 hours of the competition, I will get my money back. it's entirely up to the club. So it's entirely up to you if you want to refund with a certain time frame before the competition. I think it's fair if it's a certain time before, but maybe on the day, you know, if you don't turn up, then that's the way it's set. Okay, so the next section is score entry. So obviously we went through the settings before this to make sure that is enabled. So enable score entry for PSI for this competition. So we're enabling that again from and until. And the same again on the how do I do mobile score input platform as well. So you want to enable score entry really for players to go in and put their score in. Okay, in the last section, we've got leaderboard. So this is, as soon as scores start to come in, you can actually see a live leaderboard via the PSI, via the Club V1 Members Hub mobile score input. It's all on there. Again, if you want to display that, you just simply click the box. You've got an option there to display, you know, gross scores as they're coming in, net, or both. And if you wanted to delay the leaderboard, you can do to a certain time. So some clubs may want to start delaying that leaderboard until the last person's gone out. So let's say my competition 8 till 1. I won't start to display that leaderboard until gone 1 o'clock. So you simply tick that and set that to the afternoon. So let's do 1 o'clock. Okay, you could do the same for, as discussed, the Club V1 Members Hub and mobile score. Okay, so the preview and confirm. This will just give you a summary basically of every section, just to double check that you've set it how you wanted. And once happy, then you can click finish, and that will create the competition. That will go live, obviously via PSI, mobile score input, Club V1 Members Hub and app, as soon as you've set that to appear, basically. We won't go through all the competition prints and whatnot, because today is more about setting them up. But as discussed earlier, if we just go quickly into the settings area, on the left-hand side, you've got CDH courses. So this is where you just need to make sure once you've set that course up in WHS, that you can drop that down then and link it to that, and that will make it available then to select for qualifying events. Okay, so if we just go back to the presentation, I'm just going to skip through these. Again, this will be sent out. It's all been screenshotted with a few details on each. Okay, so the next section is tee sheet settings, and we're going to talk about reservations, tee time intervals, and messages. So a few key ones really moving into the season. So I'm going to start with looking at the tee sheet as a whole. So if you haven't got a tee sheet option along the top, you can go into the settings area and hub and casual booking, and it will say enable casual booking. The tee sheet icon will then appear at the top. So if we go into that, you can see at the moment there are no tee times available on this date. So I haven't actually created any tee times as of yet. So in order to do so, if I go into my settings area and go to hub and casual booking, and the booking drop down, we've got tee time generation. So in this section, we can decide on the course. So if you've got multiple courses, you can obviously drop that down to the particular one. We've got batch start date. So for example, I'm going to create times from today until this time next week. Tee sheet start time. So we're going to go keep it 7:30 until 5. And you've got interval 1, so 10 minutes. If you wanted to alternate that, sort of 10 minutes, then 8 minutes, you can pop a time in interval 2, and that will alternate when it goes live. So once happy, we can then generate batch of tee times. You'll have a pop-up message here to say that it's generated successfully. And then within that tee sheet, you will have times available. Probably key to note, if you are regularly changing your tee time start throughout the season, when the clocks change and whatnot, it's probably best to generate times on maybe a monthly basis, or maybe a couple of months at a time, just because if you've got bookings then in there for societies later down the line, you can't delete that tee sheet and reapply it basically. So we have got a webinar on our YouTube channel that covers the full booking setup. So if you need further information, just jump onto that for further help. So if we go onto the tee sheet now, you can see the tee sheet is now available. So if I go to tomorrow, next day, there it is, 7:30 down to 5 o'clock. Top right, I've got my courses. So I've obviously got the one at the moment. So that is setting up the tee sheet. That is now allowing members to go in and book, obviously based around the settings that you've set up for member booking days in advance when booking becomes available. But that tee sheet is now ready to use. If we go into the settings area, back to hub and casual booking, and drop down to tee sheet reservations, this is where you can set the course to be blocked off at certain days and times. So for example, I know we were back in 2 balls, obviously last year when we came back to golf. Maybe there's a day where you want to block off the tee time for a roll-up when we're back to some normal. So you can pop in there. If we pop in 2 balls only, which course you want to select, and then public message. So if I go on and wonder why there's only 2 slots available, so if we said 2 balls only, so that'll display to the members. You can turn this rule on or off. So we're going to put it on for today, and then reserved slot count. So if I change that to 2, that is basically now between today and this time next year, on every day of the week, going to block off 2 slots on every tee time. So if I want to do it, say, for the next week, I could go back to this month, so to the 19th, Monday to Friday, I want to reserve 2 slots. If we click save and go back to tee sheet, you can see now 2 balls only is there for the next week. We go to tomorrow. So from a back office perspective, booking a tee time, there's only 2 slots there. Again, when a member goes onto the tee sheet, they will only be able to book 2 slots as well. So it's quite useful if you want to block off the tee sheet certain times, restrict certain amounts of, certain members booking 2, 3, 4 balls, you can. And again, maybe you want to restrict all 4 slots for a roll-up, maybe on a Wednesday morning, moving forward into some normality. Okay, so that is the reservation side of things. So if we go back to presentation, so the last one was messages. So this is quite key to display any information on a particular day to your members. So when they go onto the booking system, if you set up a message, that will actually display right at the top. So the first thing that they see will be the message that you have created. So again, hub and casual booking drop down, and we've got messages here. So I've got no messages at the moment. If I add a message, I can put it in here. So please report to the pro shop to sign in. Please keep 2 meters apart. So you put any message on there, whether you've got course maintenance and just want to make everyone aware of that. If you're using our visitor booking platform, that will display to visitors as well. Again, you've got a drop down for which course this applies to, which days of the week, and the time frame that you want that to be displayed. So if we save that, that will then appear straight away. You can input multiple messages, and that will display on the order you've created them. So if we've got, if I wanted to say the course maintenance was this week, I can create another, and that will display, as I say, in order of how you've created them on the members booking and visitor booking section. Okay, so that's probably it for tee sheet settings today. As I say, if you needed more help, more information and further guidance on setting up the general settings, we have got a webinar on YouTube for that. So if we skip through now to communications. So obviously keeping in touch with your members is key, especially now more than ever. So the first section we're going to cover is mailing. Then we're going to look at newsletter and a few app notifications that are quite useful for the clubs that are using our Club V1 Members Hub. So the first one, mailing. If we go to communications at the top, you can then see we've got an icon for mailing, and this then brings up the mailing wizard. So we're going to input a subject, so we're going to call it return to golf. You've then got a reply to email. So This is key. If I go in as the competition secretary, I want to make sure that any of these replies come to myself rather than the club manager. So I'd pop my email address in there and ensure any replies go there. So the next section, we've got the body. Okay, so this is where you would put input the email. So if we say hi, and we want to pull some information from everyone's Club V1 account to make that email a little bit more personal, we can use the insert data drop down here. And we're going to use forename, surname. So that would pull now, it would say, hi, Ashley, and then go on to the rest of the email. Please sure you have you'd input your email. So please ensure you've topped up your competition purse ready for the start of the season. And again, you've got pretty much all the data linked to anyone's Club V1 account. So if you wanted to input handicap indexes just to remind people of what it is to start of the season, you can literally use any data and that will pull it from that person's Club V1 account. Next section, you've got a read more URL. So if you wanted to send them to your website, to a third-party website for more information on a particular subject, you can pop that in there. Okay, and then again at the bottom, you can select who this goes to. So if they've opted out for club promotions, third-party marketing, you can select that and it would not send to those particular people. Sorry, it would send. So you've either got the option to send it to both or people that have only opted into the one. Okay, so once we continue, it will give you a preview. So it'll pull through your club's logo, the golf club there, the mailing header. Obviously, this would populate my Club V1 details, and then the link there through to read more. You can add an attachment. So if you wanted to upload a PDF or anything that sort of supplements the email, you can do. So I know we've got some guidelines and things for return to golf. You could add there as a PDF. And then obviously the last section then is who the email goes to. So on the left, we've got, you can use filters. So I've got one set up called men only. I could apply that and that would then bring up certain people on my Club V1 account. If you wanted to create your own for this particular email, you can add another field. So if we change category and click that there, I could only send maybe this one out to the 9-hole members. Apply the filter and it would send out. So there I've got one member that this email will go out to. Continue. Okay, if they haven't got an email address, you can print it off and send it them like you do with annual bills. But hopefully all of your members have got an email address on file now. So you'd simply click send and that would be sent to them very soon. In the history then, once you've sent the emails, you can actually see the information, who it's been sent to, has it been delivered? If it hasn't, it will give you a sort of description why it hasn't. If members aren't receiving emails, it's probably key to go and check the blacklist. So if we go into communications and you see on the far right, we've got check email blacklist. So if you pop the person's email in there, it will come up if they are on it for you to then remove them. And then just let that person know to add your email as a safe sender on their email settings, which will then stop them going back in the future. Blacklist can be for various reasons to do with sort of the email provider you use and all sorts. So first thing to do is check that, obviously post checking their junk just to make sure it hasn't gone into there. Okay, so that's the mailing wizard. We're now going to go on to newsletters. So hopefully a lot of you use this to communicate with members on a regularish basis. So under communications newsletters, we've got a plus button to add a newsletter. So subject, again, I'm going to call this one return to golf. Newsletter date, so we're going to leave that as today. And today we're going to look at the custom HTML. So templated, you could go through using Club V1 to build it. You've got various different styles you can use. You can use the club news articles you've created over the last few weeks and pull those into the newsletter, or simply create your own. If you use a third-party piece of software, such as MailChimp, you can actually create the newsletter in the third-party software and import the HTML into Club V1. So I know a lot of third-party sort of softwares that are made for newsletter building are a little bit more in-depth, you can customize them a little bit more. So there's nothing wrong with using those, but then you can bring them into Club V1 and send out to your database that way. So we're going to use custom HTML. You would then need to copy and paste the HTML into this box. So if I open up a MailChimp account and just log into that, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how to copy a MailChimp newsletter across to Club V1. So I've created sort of just a demo campaign, I think last week, just to give you an overview. Campaigns. So if we go into campaigns, you've then got the option to view campaigns that you've sort of already created. So if we go down, I've got one called Return to Golf here. If I drop that down and go view email, that will then bring up a demo of what that would look like. You simply right click on this, view the page source. That would bring up the HTML. If you just click Control A and then Control C, that has copied the HTML. We go back to Club V1, Control V, and paste that in there. You don't need to touch anything else then. You simply click Save. And as you can see, that exact newsletter now has been brought through to Club V1. So it's up to you if you want to use the HTML or use the builder based in Club V1. But if you are used to using a separate piece of software and you're happy with your sort of templates, you can just drag that in and then send it via Club V1. So once happy, you've got sort of preview what it looks like here. Then got an icon to send the newsletter. So in this section, it will drop down which newsletters you want to send. Again, like before on the mailing, the reply to email, so make sure you've set that to where you want replies to go to. And then again, if anybody's opted out or opted into third-party marketing or whatnot, you can select. We're going to send those to both. Continue. Again, use a filter to drop down, create your custom one, and then continue. And you can literally then send, and that newsletter will be sent out to those members or visitors. Okay, so that is custom HTML. I hope that's helpful for you that didn't know that feature was available. We're now going to go on to app notifications. So this is quite a nice way of communicating with your members, making sure they get messages another way. You can't really miss them. App notifications actually get sent through as a push notification. So for you that have got any apps downloaded on your phone, it would pop up on your lock screen of your phone. So you don't actually have to go into the software. It would just ping up like your course status. So it's not missed basically. So in this section, we've got communications, app notifications, and compose. So you've got the option here to send to gents and ladies, gents only or ladies only. You've got the option then to put a message in. So get your tickets for the upcoming Soul and Motown evening, and whatever further details in there. I've then got a target URL, so if I wanted to sort of direct them then to our website, which has got more information on that event, I can do. So again, you just pop that in there. And on the right-hand side, you can see you've got a preview of what that app notification would look like on iOS, Apple, and then Android. So this is how it would look. So once you're happy with that, you simply confirm, and that would then send out to everybody that's got a valid mobile number on their account, and obviously gents and ladies. Once you've sent those out, again, you can go into the history, and every app notification that you actually sent, on the left-hand side, you can click into that and it will give you details on that particular send. So it will give you data on how many were successful, how many were not, and basically anybody that received the app notification then clicked into it. So you sort of get a decent breakdown of how that notification has been received. So good one again to try and communicate with your members. That's sort of included within the Club V1 Members Hub premium level and above. So it's a great way of just using further features there to get out to your members. So we've covered mailing, newsletter, app notifications. Again, that has been screenshotted by the presentation. And that concludes the webinar from me today. So that is what we feel is a few key features just to take you through, get yourself set up for the start of the season. As I say, if you needed further help with setting up your T-sheet, there is a webinar that we publish to our YouTube channel, which gives you a real in-depth version of both member booking and visitor booking. But if you do need any help, you can contact myself for Midlands and South Wales, or our support team, csicare@clubsystems.com, or using the online chat at the bottom of your Club V1 account. I'm just going to bring Darren back on now. If that's okay.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ashley. And thanks to everybody with really quick typing skills, asking all these questions. I've done my best to try and get through some of them. I've probably got through half of them, which, if you can see how many questions were submitted, that's not a small achievement. But as I say, we are going to go through these and all the ones that have been submitted with the registrations next week and get everybody the Q&A, so you can all have sight of the questions that you're all asking. So please don't be offended if I haven't got around to everybody on the live questions today, but you will get an answer to them at some point next week. Just need a little bit of time to get through them all. So thank you. Apologies, Ashley, I might have missed it. Did you show them the YouTube channel?
Sorry, no, I haven't obviously spoke about it. So yeah, if you go onto YouTube, type in Club Systems International, the channel then will pop up to click on. And as you can see, if you scroll down, we've got it sectioned off into Club Systems webinars. So any we've done in the past do get uploaded. User tutorials. So that's something we're trying to update on a regular basis. So yeah, if you subscribe, you'll obviously get a notification then to any further uploads. You'll get notified straight away. So
brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. As he's saying, just some of those on there. We'll touch on the topics that Ashley's gone over today in a little bit more detail. So have a look through. There might be things in there that are quite useful to you ahead of the start of the competition season this year. So what I plan on doing now, just to finish off the webinar for the next 10 minutes or so, is to go through some of the pre-submitted questions, the common ones, and give a few answers to those. So if I start off with question, are Club Systems going to divide divisions into decimal places? I think a few people have asked this today as well during the live questions, and the answer to that is yes. Fingers crossed. I think a small release last night might have addressed this. So I haven't tested it myself, but I believe that is now corrected. So the answer to that is yes, and hopefully it's already done. Second question is, we have a ladies and gents eclectic competition that runs off the back of every competition throughout the year. Can we do eclectic competitions in Club V1? Again, the answer is definitely yes. So if Ashley could just very quickly show us how to find an eclectic in Club V1 there.
Yeah, so you'd go to golf along the top. You've then got a subheader for eclectics here. So you would click into that section and you would add an eclectic. So you'd go through all the details that are relevant to you. So you pop in the name, the type, whether it's calculated, accumulated, who the eclectic's for, so men's, ladies, mixed, how the result score type is set, the course that it applies to, and again, you can use the current handicap or the handicap of the first round, whether you want to include disqualified rounds to go towards the eclectic. Again, you can set divisions like you can in other competitions, and then you can filter basically who can take part in the eclectic. So once you've set that up, just pop a few names in there. But at the bottom, then you've then got the events. So once you've set up your competitions, maybe you do, some people set it up for the season, but you might do a couple at a time. you can then go in and select the events that basically go towards the eclectic. So you can go in and do it that way, or you can go back into your competition fixtures, and within that particular competition, when you are setting it up, you can actually set it up for the eclectic within the courses. So once you've set that up, you've set the eclectic up to go towards certain people. So if I was eligible, there'd be an option here now to say, does this competition want to be added to go towards that eclectic, basically. So 2 ways of doing it, but yeah.
Fantastic, thanks, Ash. Next question, do we cater for district golf unions, golf associations and the like? Again, I think a question submitted by somebody today asked something very similar, and the answer to that again is thankfully yes. We've just finished some work to create something that we call a tournament API, which is for maybe a ladies golfing association that are essentially all away players but run competitions, that can now connect to the World Handicap server. So those away scores from that association can now be flushed through to the World Handicaps server. So fingers crossed, that one is already released and available. So a quick call to our support team, I think, if you're inquiring about that. We should be able to point you in the right direction. We can get that set up for you. Next question is how to set up knockouts for seeded draws. And I think just very quickly, if Ashley can just show us the knockout wizard on there, one of the options when setting up is a seeded draw.
Yeah, so again, you go to golf, you've got an option then called knockouts. Very much like the eclectics, you would click the plus button there. And again, if we just set one up quickly, so you've got knockout name, so whether it's winter knockout, summer pairs knockout, you can then pop in knockout rules, so this will be sent out to everyone. And then you've got the format, so whether it's a singles knockout or a team. And here you go, you've got the draw type. So if you wanted it to be seeded, you select seeded or random. It's entirely up to you. You've then got seed type. Is it manual or handicap? So again, that's down to how you want the competition set up. Gender, again, men, ladies, or mixed. And do you want to hide it from how do I do a Club V1 members hub? So once you've set that up, it would then ask you which course card you want to use. So we're going to use my demo card. Enable sign-in for knockout via how did I do, PSI and the hub. So similar to your competitions, you've got a window that people can actually sign into the knockout. And again, you've got a sign-in message there if you want to display any particular information. And you can actually set up competition charging for the knockout again here. So mandatory charge, how much does it cost to enter? So if you pop in £5, and it's taken from when they sign in on this one. Again, you can set up refunds. Once you've continued, that would then create the knockout. People can then obviously enter the knockout via PSI, Club V1 members hub, how do I do? And you'll start to then see the entries populate here. You can actually add people manually in the back office like I'm on here. So if I added in, let's just add a couple of people in if it's got anyone. It only picks people that have got a handicap index. I don't know if I've got many on here. So once you've populated the entries here, and obviously the closing date has come around the corner, you've then got the seeds option here. So that needs a certain amount of people to apply that to, and you can then form the draw. So you've got complete control over who enters, when the cutoff is. You can perform a random draw in this section, and then you've got the option then to say when each round needs to be played by. Players can then go into the hub PSI, put their result in, and they'll get sent an email notification then of who they're playing in the next round and when that needs to be played by. So you've got complete control over that within the knockout section here.
Fantastic, thank you, Ashley. Okay. Next question, so quite a few people have asked this actually, and it's quite a generic answer. How do we set up a start sheet outside of competitions? So rather than going through that now, I think if you go to our YouTube channel, there is quite a detailed tutorial video on setting up a casual tee sheet. So check out the Club Systems YouTube channel again. And if you are looking for that kind of help, there is a dedicated tutorial for that on there. Casual score entries, just while we're talking about casual golf, how do you accept or decline a score entry when it comes to casual golf? For WHS purposes, we're calling general play scores. The short answer to that is you can't. There isn't an option to accept or decline a general play score. It goes directly onto the player's record. If they sign in with the intention of returning the score and return that score, it goes directly to the World Handicap server for the calculation that day. That is part of the specifications. You can't accept or reject that. I think some people are looking at that along the lines of accepting or rejecting an away score that we used to do. I think once that score has gone in and been submitted by the player, you have access to your WHS platform, the portal for England Golf, Wales Golf, wherever you are, and you can adjust from there, or you can decline, you can remove them, I think, from there, but certainly not from the ISV from the club software. You can't do that. The next question: why can't bowmakers, four-ball, better balls, foursomes, etc. Be signed into on the app and scores entered as they can on PSI? We are looking to add this facility in the spring. So around May last time, we added mobile score input for singles golf, and then added some more functionality into that around markers and signatures and a few other bits and pieces. But we're going to add in the ability to use it for team events this spring. Next question. Can we still run social non-qualifying sessions and use Club V1 to book into these? Yes, you absolutely can. All you're doing is setting up your competition to be non-qualifying. As soon as you set a competition to be non-qualifying, it will not communicate to the WHS server. So the ability to run non-qualifiers is still within the local software that you're using in Club V1. Outside of that, just setting up T-sheets for casual golf is exactly the same. As I say, that YouTube video will help you with that. Anybody that does play some casual golf and wants to submit it for a general play score has the ability to do so just by signing in again on the PSI for a general play score, a casual score, or through MSI. So that's reasonably straightforward. Why can't we apply our own handicap allowances, example 100% instead of 95% on small field competitions? I think two sides to the answer to this one. Firstly, the 95% is hard coded into all singles competition. That you can't change, because that is the rule that's been given to us as part of the specification. And I don't believe, and I'm sure people will fire corrections at me if I've got this wrong, but I don't believe that small field adjustment applies now to world handicapping, because for the purposes of handicap, the competition is slightly irrelevant. It's a score returned on that course that day that goes towards the handicap change. The competition doesn't really have a relevance when it comes to England Golf, Wales Golf. They don't really care who wins that competition. They can care about the scores. I could be wrong on that, and I'm not 100% an expert on that side of it, but I believe that that's how it's working. So the answer is singles golf is 95%, and we've been told that that's the specification. Therefore, it's hard coded into that. In a knockout competition, do entrants post their own results? Yes, absolutely, they can. So I've actually shown you quickly how you can set up the knockout competition on there. And then when it is live, if the club are using the Club V1 app, the Club V1 members hub or the app, members can go into there, see their knockout that they've registered for, and enter a result, who won it, and you can even enter the score as well, 5 and 4, 3 and 2, whatever it may be. You don't have to enter a score, but you do have to enter a result. It won't allow you to enter a result as a player if it's after the closing date. Again, you'll have to speak to the office as a player about that. And if any errors are made, maybe I put Ashley through instead of me, because obviously I'm going to win, but I've done it by mistake, then the back office has to make those kind of adjustments. But yes, absolutely, the players have full interaction and control over that, and works incredibly well for golf clubs. They love that side of things. We're getting towards the end now. Amalgamating competitions run with alternate dates. that was all that was submitted, but I'm making an assumption here that what we're looking at is what we call aggregating rounds together to get a competition result. As I just want to reiterate again that a competition result doesn't affect the handicap of a player. So if you do play alternate days, if I play on Saturday and Ashley plays on Sunday, when I've completed and submitted my round on the Saturday, my handicap will change based on all the scores returned on that course on that Saturday. So I could end up with a different handicap by Sunday morning before Ashley plays his round of golf, is my understanding. So, but aggregating the scores together will give you a competition result. So that is unchanged as far as I'm aware with World Handicapping. That's a competition function rather than a handicapping function. And then lastly, why can't we set up a competition and then be able to release the unused times of that competition to allow people to play casual golf? Great question, that. And when we created our tee sheet, it was one of the things we thought about, and it is very high on our development wish list, and we're hoping that that is going to be a feature within the software at some point in April. So with the demand on tee times going to be an unprecedented rate, I would imagine, for every nation when golf is returned to us all, the tee times will become very, very desirable. So if there's anything in the competition that is unused, we'll give a function in there to release that time, just that time, for casual golf, and it will appear on the casual booking sheet. So keep an eye out on the notifications in April for when that goes live. And that is the end of our questions and presentations today. So just a quick reminder that the video for this today, which is now probably going to be an hour long, is going to be uploaded onto our YouTube channel at some point next week, hopefully early next week, and we'll send you a link to it. So all those that have registered for this particular webinar, we have your email addresses, so we're going to send you a link directly to be able to view the video as well, along with a copy of the presentation that Ashley's gone through today with the slides. And all these questions that I've answered today, the ones that I've answered live on the question section of the webinar, along with the ones that I haven't, we'll answer retrospectively and send those all back to you as well. As you can imagine, it's going to take a little bit of time to work our way through all those, but at some point next week, we'll send all this to you. So hopefully you've got enough information to be armed for the start of the season. But do remember, support are there to support you 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 8 till 8. So please make sure you do use them. Live chat is available and a great way to ask a quick question while you're working away in the office or putting your competition schedule together. So hopefully we've got plenty of support for you there over the next couple of weeks and months moving through the year. So that's it from me. Thanks for joining us. I'll just hand you back to Ashley to finish off, and happy golfing, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Yeah, as I say, hope everyone has a safe, enjoyable return to golf, welcoming the members back over the next week and few weeks. As Darren said, if you do need anything from us, hopefully you've got my contact details direct. So if you do need anything, don't hesitate to get in touch. But yeah, wishing you all a safe, happy return to golf, and let's hope this is the last time we're in this situation. So enjoy and thanks for watching.